Welcome, everyone. This presentation is about my scholarship program, making social work education accessible to every learner 15 plus years journey. The idea of plus, as I started my social work journey, was when I became a student of social work in Ukraine and Canada brought accessible education first time into my home city, Lviv. And from that time, now I'm grateful to be in Kamloops, British Columbia, in Thompson Rivers University doing this presentation as part of my tenure promotion application. Uh, the presentation include all of the documents related to my teaching, service, and research on different components of my journey, meaning I've been teaching in Winnipeg, in Halifax, and online in a number of universities like Wilfrid Laurier University and University of Northern British Columbia. So it includes all the peoples, all the stories, all the students, everyone who shared with me their learning and learning I've shared with everyone who been part of the classes I've been teaching. So when we look on a presentation, we want to acknowledge the scholarship which happened on uh, indigenous lands and Secwepemc people where I'm currently located were doing this research for generations, for meantime passing oral histories, traditions, learning, knowledges. And when I look on TRU TrueFact Collective Agreement, it defines scholarship as research, scholarly, and artistic work, which is creative and is disseminated within the public role. So what I will be focusing in this presentation, primarily of significance of my scholarship, recognition of my scholarship, incremental and ongoing growth of scholarship, which I'm doing, and ongoing plan for the future. In social work, when we look on departmental standards, we have many ways how we can disseminate scholarship and see scholarship, from peer-reviewed publication to non-reviewed publication to research grant and other ways how the scholarship is disseminated. And I will share in the presentation how I do this. As well, there is requirements for associate professor scholarship as a person who have accomplishment in scholarship, and minimum criteria is 4 peer-reviewed journal articles. And in addition, there is some of the following can be presented, and I will share both the presentation of my scholarly work to professional and general audiences, the publication of non-peer-reviewed work, and the preparation of instructional work materials. And that's how it's connected to the national level, although I work on all 3 levels: national, regional, and international. And that appendix, which was before described how we define scholarship. And all of this will be in the context of peer-reviewed and non-peer-reviewed work, which I do. Everything what I do has a theoretical and practice orientation. I am committed to anti-oppressive and anti-privileged social work theory and practice, and I'm grateful that I started my journey with the University of Manitoba when Dr. Bob Mullally was a dean, and that's when I taught my first course in 2005. And I'm grateful now that Dr. Juliana West is aiding and supporting my learning in Thompson Rivers University. And I'm looking forward to seeing more editions of the uh, critical text for all social work students on challenging oppression and combating privilege. I also develop an equity, diversity, and inclusion framework in all my courses which I teach, and I expanded the social graces framework, which usually focus on gender, race, age, class, ethnicity, and sexuality, and include many other aspects of our identity to make sure that learning is accessible for everyone, no matter what their language, how their ability to uh, uh, where they live, geographic origin, geographic place where they're living, age, ability, agility, caregiving responsibilities people have. We live differently based on who we are and how society sees us. So it's important to recognize that while we all have opportunity to get access to education, we need to have different type of supports to make sure that it will be successful and effective. So that's where I teach in all my classes, and in every manual which you will open, there will be social graces, which is now G5, R6, A8, C8, E6, S9 framework, which we build together with my students to ensure that every identity, every concern is included to ensure the quality of education. I developed one of the first models on social work distance education, which now become very critical in times of pandemic because it designed to ensure that you can teach social work anywhere at any time in any format, making accessible education asynchronously, synchronously, or both, which allows students a choice how to take classes. And thanks to all social work distance educators across Canada who shared their knowledge and helped me to build that model from my PhD research. I also continue working what's now known as hybrid flexible design by BT, and I'm grateful working with my colleague from University of Manitoba, Dr. Claire Fried, on designing universal framework to course accessibility. In all my courses, and many time I use a lot of asset mapping to share resources to make sure things are accessible and promote asset-based community development in every aspect of my life. Another thing which all my students are quite familiar with every class I teach, it's 10A plus framework, which looks on accessibility, availability, affordability, applicability, and other A's to make sure that services can be obtained to any person in Canada and around the world. That's a policy analysis framework. So what is my goal of scholarship and teaching? Is accessibility. It's to advance a comprehensive learner-centered, sustainable and accessible social work program that serves regional, national, and international learners and their communities through the high quality and flexible social work education, anti-privilege and anti-oppressive accessible research, and service routine social work values. And it's very similar to the mission of Thompson Rivers University, which I'm quite excited to be able to present this presentation today. So as I've shared, I do work on creating an effective and accessible learning and teaching environment in all my scholarship work. And one of the framework, which is hybrid flexible, designed by BT, I use in all my classes to make sure that it's online and in-person teaching and learning, and students can choose how to do the learning with no learning deficit. This is a model which you can find in my PhD dissertation, and now it's a model which every class include from 2016. When I design, I share students how I do it, what type of critical skills, supports you need to be successful in every course I design to teach. That's the article, which is accessible through peer-reviewed journal online and can be shared about the literature reviews that Dr. Claire Fleet and myself work on putting together supports for every student. And this is my A framework. You can definitely see it also in every single class I teach because it's all designed how to make things available, accessible, affordable, accountable, acceptable, appropriate, approachable, accurate, adequate, and ideally awesome to everyone. It's challenging some of the words to achieve in every service delivery aspect, but we work through anti-oppressive and anti-privilege lens to achieve it. So how to see my significance of scholarship recognition and incremental growth? I color-coded my CV to make sure that every aspect of my work is highlighted there through the lens of accessibility. It's use different colors to highlight accessibility of education, accessibility of services, and accessibility of research scholarship, which I do across uh, Canada and around the world. It's a small summary of evidence of consistent accomplishment. So I have 15 peer-reviewed journals and 5 included now with from 2016 with letters from the editors from every journal I publish. There is one book which is Welcome to Kamloops. I speak a little bit later. There is 2 book proposals in progress, and there was a lot of peer review conference presentation both nationally and internationally to share about my scholarship in academic uh, circles. There is lots of invited presentation, which I'm asked to share my scholarship across Canada and in Ukraine. Some manuals which are currently used at university as a main curriculum guides for all students. There is 4, where I do not have any more copyright, but they are shared among students and they still learn. There is number of grants which I received, and number of students already published their papers and supervised, and many other activities which are documented in my CV very clearly and precisely. I highlighted those 5 peer-reviewed articles because standards requirement are minimum 4. So that's an important to know that I continue building those peer-reviewed contributions into scholarship across Canada and internationally. Some of highlights, which is important to note, is my students. I'm very proud that I was able to teach from any small northern community in Manitoba, where I had an honor to learn a lot from my students about Indigenous people, and that's where my connection, including uh, learning from Mi'kmaq communities in Halifax, and now learning from Secwepemc people in Kamloops. And I have more than 5,000 students across Canada, which is quite exciting to know that it helps to build 250 million economy because all my students who graduate start practicing social work, and with undergraduate degree, Statistic Canada estimates around 50,000 contribution. So I'm grateful and will keep building those labor force to ensure that services will be available, accessible, adequate around Canada and globally, because some students will choose to go globally. And I had opportunity to teach my first course in Ukraine in Cherkasy National University last year as part of the partnership agreement. So there is more than 140 field placements where my students had placement under my supervision and were able to complete all the agency requirements in the health field, mental health and addictions. The full list of agencies is available in my CV. And I definitely create an asset map to make sure whenever I stop by the agency when I travel, I say hello to amazing supervisors and social workers who are uh, taking students to provide supports and supervision. And that allows me to keep connection between uh, practice and what I teach. There is a number of progression which I've shared here in my teaching and research and service on how I support newcomers across Canada, and primarily now focusing on Kamloops. Welcome to Kamloops guide is given to every student, international student who come to Thompson Rivers University, and it's available in more than 100 languages on my website. My authored courses, which are peer-reviewed nationally in 5 universities, are offered them throughout the last 15 years, and continuously those curriculums are available and accessible for educators to use in those universities, and one in Ukraine. And my students are highly impactful work of they doing that makes me always extremely proud of what I do and how I continue building accessible social work education. So briefly, those are 71 authored courses, which include all of the documentation needed to run the course in any format, asynchronously or synchronously, at any universities were already taught, and they are approved by the faculty and reviewed peerly by their chairs and coordinators. So making sure that students can learn policy, research, and all aspects of social practice, because I'm also a member of Canadian Association of Social Work Educators and Social Policy and Advocacy Committee, to make sure that policy curriculum is available, accessible to all educators across Canada. And I'm a co-chair, being elected, and very excited to work with my colleague to build that social policy education nationally. At Dalhousie University, I've been able to teach in both the master's level and BSW level, and start developing independent study courses, which I now teach at TRU. TRU students have access to every course which I do, and able to take as a elective, as a directed study course in aspects which I was able to design and deliver courses in other universities. The same happens in the University of Manitoba. I'm very excited to continue working on some of the courses which I've designed in the last 10 years, and particularly with looking on family social sciences courses and seeing social development as we go through. So in total, it's a quite lengthy list of courses which I'm able to develop and author and make accessible to many universities nationally recognized, and I'm grateful to be able to continue support and collaborate with all my universities where I worked. So there is 4 peer-reviewed manuals which I included in the information which I've shared in my portfolio. You can click on any link and see all the documentation, what is behind those links, and how it's connected. many national academic peer-reviewed conferences. It's hard to list them on one slide, but I've highlighted some of them very recently. But every year I try to present nationally, internationally, and share my knowledge with academics and learn from them across the world, because we are building the best possible curriculum. It's need to make sure that we have access to all the knowledges which we have currently on how to make sure that teaching is available and accessible to students uh, online and through global access. I do a number of national expert presentations. I highlight some of them here, and they are all listed in my CV, including practice, sharing how to do practicum online in pandemic, how to design online programs, as I've been a program coordinator in online program, and many of my courses already taught in online only format, including a study which I'm keep building on Ukrainians in Canada as I did my master's social work. It's keep progressing, and we are excited to have a new course available to 1.2 million of Ukrainians Canadian in Canada to celebrate their heritage and learn about history of Ukrainians in Canada. There is lots of future possibilities. I will continue building on TRU values, curiosity and sustainability. We already designed a partnership between Canada and Ukraine, and we will keep building those memorandum of understanding to ensure that academic cooperation exists in any areas of social work education. And I'm very excited with Bogdan Khmelnytsky National University to co-host every year a conference in Bulgaria and support students learning from education and social work in both universities. And that's will continue building those connections. And I will continue building my course design every year. I develop a couple of new courses to make sure the currency of knowledge for all my students across Canada and the world, like pandemic social work, which was a joy to develop with my former student this summer in 2020, and see how we can ensure we support every social worker to what work they do to support people in their communities. And it will be continued. I will build those parts, and like future scholarship of community mindedness. My research is rooted in community and ensure we celebrate communities across Canada. As now I plan for the 50 years of TRU to share the gift to 130 years of Ukrainian Canadian community history. The course is available in a number of universities, and it's all runs through Thompson Rivers University. So I do hope when you look on every document, like including Welcome to Kamloops Guide, you know that every student, every newcomer who comes to Kamloops will have ability to be welcomed, to make things accessible by reading 150 pages, which my student were able to put together, and I edited to make it accessible in any format, online and in any languages. I do asset maps, and you can see very proudly that Thompson Rivers University is highlighted on being a global leader of social work education, where we have all the maps of schools and collaboration potential for the future as we keep growing, and the same as Ukrainian Canadian resource map and recent map about Kamloops winter lights as we build to make sure that people can still have opportunity to celebrate in pandemic and have different activities to keep us going. So my students give me every year I receive hundreds of positive, extremely supportive evaluation of saying how I was extremely accommodating with new technology, and this year, this is a pandemic year, and wonderful professor. All of those comments are very inspiring, and I'm grateful to have my best students to share knowledge with global community. And it's always reassuring to know what I'm doing is nationally and internationally valued. And that's a critical piece. So where I have evaluation from every university across Canada and many communities saying, keep going. Uh, it was a lot of work, but it's worth it. And it's important to see all of those comments, and I'm grateful my students who keep up sharing their knowledge, and I'm thankful to them when they share that they've learned what we were able to accomplish in every single course for last 15 years across Canada, globally. And I share that access. I have now website, which I make sure that everything what I do is shared globally. And you are able to see them in different languages as Google Translate allow us to do. I could see how many people are reaching out. We have most people are from Canada. It's a national reach, which I have, but it's growing also internationally. If you look on 2019, it's tripled in 2020 because of online delivery. My guides on online teaching philosophy and remote learning is accessed around the world from United States, Germany, Ukraine, China, and India. We have articles which are written some of my practicum students like compassion fatigue, and the course which we designed, pandemic social work, is more than 700 times watched to make sure that it's available for people. In 2021, I already have in first month 4,000 views, and that's incredible to see the growth for potential. If we look for the future, there will be a lot of opportunities to share accessibility of social work education as we keep moving through these challenging times, and at the same time continue to generate research to improve teaching and learning at TRU, Canada, and around the world. Thank you. If you have any questions, please always feel free to contact me, and we will make sure things will get more accessible with social work education. Have a good day.